Amy, welcome to the podcast. Please do introduce yourself.
Thank you, Dan. It's great to be here. So I'm Amy, or Amy the Space Creator on Instagram, and I am a bit of a mix of things, but essentially a declutter coach and professional organizer. So I'm founder of The Space Creator, or Amy the Space Creator on Instagram, as most people know me. And I help mostly women declutter and organize and basically shift their identity into the person that they want to be, right?
Perfect. Well, I'm very excited to have this chat. We do start off every episode with the same question.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Let's Buy a Home Hall of Fame is a
Yeah.
place where each of our guests place an item that they simply could not live without in the home. So Amy,
Yeah.
what would you like to add to the Let's Buy a Home Hall of Fame?
So I feel like the nature of my job has got to be a label maker. They are just so useful, I think, especially for husbands or kids who find it difficult to put things away. Labeling just really helps to get organized.
Amazing. We could probably do one of those. We've got a play area, a space which is used for toys and all that sort of stuff in our house. And the drawers are labelled. And our 3-year-old's not quite there yet with it, but hopefully it's going to help. But no, great answer. Okay, so Amy,
Yes.
where did your journey begin with clutter and home organisation?
So weirdly, since I was really, really young, I was like quite obsessed with just organizing stuff, like anything. Like the thing that I always remember really sticks out to me is like beads. So at my dad's house, I was quite bored because, they tend to just leave me to my own devices. And I had all these beads and I would just constantly like organize them. And on my Christmas list, I was like, it's really weird. You know those like DIY screw boxes with the lid and they've got all the compartments? I wanted one of those to organize this stuff. I mean, very weird. So yeah, I feel like I've just always loved organizing things. And as I got older, like, I still loved it. The typical thing, you love going to like Home Sense or wherever and seeing all the storage and things. But also I really enjoyed like interior design as well. And I've actually, probably quite relevant to you, I've renovated quite a few houses as well, like myself, done them up, whatever. And so that kind of it's all sort of quite related, I think. And yeah, and I love helping people and I also love rummaging through people's stuff. Like I'm quite nosy. So I think that helps. But yeah, I don't know, it just kind of all started from then. And then I actually wanted to do this as a job like 10 years before I started the business. And I didn't, for all the different reasons that, limiting beliefs or whatever. And I can't even remember what the actual, oh yeah, in COVID, I was reading, obviously, as we all did, and I read Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And I was like, oh my God, and then I started researching that. I was like, it's actually a proper job. I could do this. Like, what am I doing? I need to do it. So I got made redundant from my previous job in COVID, and then I was going to do it. And then I got scared. So I got another job, which was awful. And I quit in 3 weeks, literally 3 weeks. And then I started this business. So
Well, thank the Lord you did. So
yeah,
who needs a
quite long-winded.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it was a great answer. It was a good answer. So who needs a declutter coach?
Honestly, like you could argue so many people. Like I genuinely feel like so much of the Western world is just drowning in stuff. And I think people just don't realize, and they just don't know about it. They don't know what it is. And a lot of people, they don't actually realize that the clutter is the problem. Like the clutter is, well, I say the clutter is a problem. It is a problem, but it's usually a symptom of the deeper problem. And that's what for me personally, I'm more of a declutter coach really than a professional organizer, especially now. And that is really what I help people with. It's like the finding out the deeper kind of reasons behind their clutter. But yeah, I mean, just there's so many reasons why people would need a declutter coach, like, overwhelm. People are just drowning in stuff. They don't know where to start because it's like too big of a project. And then you've got the perfectionist element, which I think so many of us have. And it's kind of like, if I can't do it all now, I can't do it properly, I just won't do it at all. And so, yeah, I think there's so many different reasons. And also like time as well. People don't have the time to do it. But yeah, there's I don't know, you're going to ask me about the benefits, or should I say?
No, no, no. So no, so that's a good answer. So I'm at an age now where
Mm.
lots of my friends have homes,
Yeah.
friends have children, friends are married, living with partners. Some haven't. Some people live by themselves.
Yeah.
But clutter
Yeah.
and potentially mess is a widespread problem. Why do you think it's such a widespread problem? And are there common themes?
Yeah, so it's a widespread problem because the world is there's just so much consumerism. You're constantly being advertised to everywhere you go. The second you open Instagram, TikTok, someone's selling you something, it's like wild. And also Amazon, you can buy things the same day. It's just like totally crazy. And so we're just constantly marketed to, and we're always just buying more stuff. And so, that obviously doesn't help with the clutter. But then also we're so busy. You know, a lot of us have second jobs or, multiple businesses, and you know, back in the day it tended to be that one person went to work, one person stayed at home, and now it's not like that. And so we're expected to do everything, and it's frankly impossible. You can't keep on top of everything, and anything. So yeah, what was the question, your
No, no.
original
So that
question?
was no. So that answered the question. So it's about common themes. I've got a friend who considers himself a minimalist.
Right.
To oversimplify it,
Yeah.
sort of, they've got one fork each, one plate each,
Literally one
one
fork.
mug each,
Oh my God.
per
That's
person, and
wild.
that's all they've got. Now, at this age, I can see why that's appealing. When I bought my first house, we're out shopping, we're in IKEA, there's 10 plates, there's 10 bowls, there's 10 forks.
Yeah.
Our little ones now, they've got a Peppa Pig bowl, a
Yeah.
Toy Story bowl, a Paw Patrol bowl.
Oh my God.
And it's definitely not necessary. So
Yeah.
yeah, where would you sit yourself on that? Yeah, on that fence.
I think the thing about minimalism is it's very like it's quite a buzzword, and I think also people don't fully understand the concept of it, and they just think, oh, they have to have like one pot plant in the corner of the room, and but it's not.
Mhm.
But 100% your life is easier with less stuff, like just categorically it is in the Western world. The less stuff you have in your house, the less you have to deal with.
Mhm.
So it is easier just by default. But obviously, yeah, the scale is really where you want to be. But I think for me, so like I'm in the process of moving at the moment. It's been a long process, and I've been decluttering and packing and stuff for literally months because it's gone on for so long. And honestly, the house is like getting quite empty now. It's
Mhm.
like quite echoey, and I feel so much relief
Mhm.
that actually there's hardly anything in there. And I'm like, maybe I will be a full blown minimalist in
Yeah.
my next house. But yeah, no, I like things, but I'm very affected by how my space looks and feels. And I so I've got ADHD, and I make a lot of mess, but I can't cope with mess. So like because I'm always leaving everything up to the wire, I'm so busy all the time as well, which doesn't help. So I'll do everything, and then I'm like, oh my God, I've got to leave in 6 minutes, and then I'll like make an absolute mess. Um, but but it's easier to put things away as well when you've got less stuff. But yeah, generally I like things to look a certain way, and so it's easier to create that when you've got less stuff.
Can living in a cluttered or unorganized house be damaging to us?
100%. Well, organized, no, I don't think, unless you've got like severe OCD and it's
Mhm.
like triggering that. I don't know. But I personally couldn't really see any issues with having an organized home. But clutter, I mean, literally, like the negative side effects of clutter are ridiculous. There's so many. I mean, it affects everything: mental health, relationships, um, stress, like finances as well. It's a big problem. I think you were going to ask me about the money,
No, it's
the
okay. Carry on.
finances, but yeah, like there's so many negative side effects, and even when you get deeper into it, it's like if you're, for example, if you're like trying to lose weight, but your kitchen is a hot mess and you've just got stuff everywhere and it's messy and you can't find anything, you're so much less inclined to actually want to think of a really healthy meal plan and
Mhm.
do the food prep and stuff like that. So, it's like a spiral effect of everything. Essentially your house is kind of setting you up for success. And if it's not cluttered and if everything has a place, it's it's just so much more peaceful. It's so much easier. Um, and in terms of like actually like detrimental effects as well, like particularly for women, and it is actually proven. Like I think it was, is it UCLA did a study, and women's cortisol spikes in a cluttered home, whereas men stays the same. It doesn't actually like physiologically affect men, whereas it does with women.
Yeah.
And the cortisol doesn't actually like reduce. So it goes up, it spikes, and then it doesn't come down. So even in the evening, like if you're trying to relax, you can't because it's clutter and it's like a constant to-do list going off in the background in your head.
Yeah, I think so for my situation, so I live at home with my partner, two kids who are aged 3 and 1,
Oh,
and a dog, and we've both got small businesses.
yeah.
And
Busy.
it's busy, and at the moment we've been really struggling with it, with the house just being a mess
Yeah,
and
yeah.
being cluttered. And we've spent maybe a couple of years thinking, oh, we'll get to the point where we can manage this, it'll get better, and
Yeah.
it didn't.
Yeah.
It seemed to get harder, if anything.
Yeah.
We've just, for the first ever time, got a cleaner
Yeah.
to help us, which when I was a kid growing up, I would have thought a cleaner, no chance, but we needed one.
Yeah.
And although that's not necessarily managing the clutter, it's taking away some of the heavy lifting, cleaning the bathroom,
Yeah.
deep cleaning the hob, whatever it might be. And that then allows us to hopefully have more of a decluttered house.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point I'm trying to make is that for me, there's a noticeable difference in how I feel and how stressed I am. If I finish work and the house is tidy,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like, oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Let's have tea, let's sit down, let's watch the telly. If it's a mess, then everything else seems to be a mess.
Yeah. It's a spiral. It knocks everything else out.
Exactly. And reality is that it maybe can never be perfect. So maybe that does bring me on to another point. Do we need to manage our expectations around this?
I think there is a definite kind of block for a lot of people with the perfectionist, element of it. And it's in terms of, I mean, there's different ways to look at this or go off and talk about different things, but in terms of actually decluttering, like you just need to start doing it and not think, okay, my house is going to be, like sensational in 2 minutes. It's not. You need to kind of manage your own expectations in terms of how much time you have. Yes, of course, you could go and hire a professional organizer and get them to come in and help you, but it's still not going to be an overnight thing. But yeah, I definitely think that the less clutter you have as well, the easier it is to clean. And so your cleaner will find it easier. But yeah, perfectionism, I think you just have to start and say to yourself, look, I'm just going to do 15 minutes or whatever I can and just in a small area. And also don't do the thing that so many people do. And they go, okay, right, this weekend I'm going to declutter my entire house. And then you end up just lying on the floor in a bunch of clothes because you're just like, I can't cope.
Yeah.
This is like, where do I start? It's just too much. So yeah, just focusing on like something small and just doing it in bits.
So would you recommend sort of the 15 minutes? So a lot of the content I watch online is, if it's a home cleaner, for example, it'll be the power hour.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that. Is that something you would recommend, sort of small bursts?
I think it depends on the type of person you are, like, and also how much time you have and how kind of determined you are to just get something done, and also how irritated by a space you are. Yeah, by the space. Because if it's something that is literally causing you so much stress, then if you can do it, just get it done. But if you are in a situation where there is a lot and actually you can't do that, yes, just do little bits, because then it's small manageable bits. And the other thing as well is, if you do a massive 3 rooms in one weekend, you've got to deal with getting the stuff out. So how are you doing that? Do you need to go to tips? Do you need to go to charity shop? Where do you need to go? Or are you selling stuff? And it's that as well. So it's not just the actual decluttering, it's the getting rid of it, which people find hard. But
Yeah, in terms of the getting rid of it, I can relate. So I grew up in a house that always had a van. Until last Christmas, we always had a van in our family.
Yeah.
And my dad's just got rid of his van, and we had a little bit of a declutter,
Yeah.
both in the house and the garden. And how do you get rid of it? If you don't have a van, where does it go? So yeah, I can absolutely relate to that.
And it's, so many people, they literally will have a bag of charity shop stuff rolling around in their boot for 6 months because they're like, oh, I'll put it in the car. Need to drop that off. And it's just, and then you just constantly feel guilty because you're like, oh God, I've got to do that. Just never gets out. But there's I use Anglo Doorstop Collection. They're really good. And there's loads of these companies popping up where they basically collect your stuff and then they give it to the charity. It's so easy. So like, they'll literally just pick it up from your front door and take it. They don't obviously take everything you need to check, but it's really handy.
I would say I'm quite bad at binning things, whether it's because there's been a cost attached at some point,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
memories attached to them, or because I might use them at some point in the future.
yeah.
So what would you say to me?
Yeah, well, you're firstly, almost everyone has at least one of those
Hmm.
blocks, and they are just blocks that you just need to think.
Hmm.
Actually, you know, that I might need it someday or one day. It's like so many times we can't find the thing when we need it, so we buy it again, or and then but also you have to live for now. You can't just live for
Yeah.
every possible eventuality, because otherwise you're just not living. And actually you need to think what is serving you right now. The money, yes, we've all spent money on stuff, and then you do think about that cost when you get rid of it, but actually the money was spent the day you bought it, not the day you're decluttering it.
Hmm.
So that's a good thing to remember. And ultimately it's costing you far more by having a cluttered house than it is by getting rid of an item that cost you £6 or whatever. um Obviously if it's something really expensive and it's still held its value, then you can sell it. But again, the selling thing, it's like, if you think about your hourly rate, is it worth selling? It's like we spend all this time listing stuff on Vinted to not get much back. And it's so again, it's so individual, because some people, you know, they have time, they have free time and they want to do that.
Hmm.
um what were the other ones you said?
No, no,
The
so
other
that
blocks,
answers the
this.
question. But to go back to something you just said there, you did
Mhm.
mention cost
Mm,
or the costs
mm.
attached.
Yeah.
So let's imagine somebody has lots of items in their house.
Yeah.
Would you say that is then saving them money because they've got access to all of these items, or is that costing them money? Are there hidden costs?
Yeah, it's literally costing them a fortune. Like, when we have a cluttered house, it's very, very difficult to find things. It makes everything take longer. So literally every single task you do at home takes longer if
Mhm.
you've got a cluttered house. Like that is just
Mhm.
across the board. It just does. And time is money. Time is your most valuable asset, right? Anyone can make more money, but you can never ever get your time back. Not even Jeff Bezos can get his time back, right? So time is money. Um, in terms of having a cluttered house, again, like if you need to find something, you think, oh, I've got this, but you can't find it, you'll buy it again. I think there was a study, and I can't remember who, but and it said that on average in the UK, we spend between £500 and £700 a year on duplicates, buying duplicates, which is wild. Like, but then I guess if you've lost your on Apple Watch, you can buzz, but I don't know, something that's more expensive. But yeah, it's crazy. It does cost you so much money, but just definitely like the time element. Yeah, it it's expensive having a cluttered house for
Yeah.
sure.
Are the items that you see most commonly that people have 100 of? So, for example, in my house, my partner has 100 candles. She has 100 pair of pajamas, sorry, and it's just not necessary.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it gets to the point where we can't even put them away. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
are there items that you see people have more than others?
I think wires, like cables,
Hmm.
bane of my life. Like, I don't think I've ever been to a client's house, and I've literally been to hundreds and hundreds of people's houses, and I don't think I've ever been to one that doesn't have a box of cables.
Hmm.
And most of the time no one knows what they're for.
Hmm.
So yeah, cables I would say is a big one.
And I'm actually going to come back to cables a little bit later in the podcast. I do have a question about cables. Um, yeah, so as mentioned, I've got two kids
Yeah.
and I do find it hard. And
Yeah.
I've got no doubt that we are going to have one of our listeners who's thinking, I've got two kids.
Yeah.
The house is always a mess. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
What would you say to that person?
In terms of needing, like, getting them to help, or just can't manage the clutter because it's
We'll
just too
start off.
much.
We'll start off with can't. Sorry, we'll start off with can't manage the clutter.
So you absolutely can, 100%, but yeah, it's not easy. Like,
Mhm.
kids do come with a lot of stuff, and also as parents, we when it comes to kids, we tend to have the guilt element, and we love them, so we want them to have stuff, and they sometimes guilt trip us into buying them stuff. But ultimately with kids, they feel overwhelmed exactly the same as adults. So quite often, um and you might have this, I don't know, but quite often my clients would say, oh, my kids have got so many toys, and they're always saying they don't have anything to play with. And it's because they're overwhelmed. They're going into the playroom or their bedroom and they're just like, whoa, like, can't see anything, can't find anything. No. And they just can't. So actually less is more for sure with kids. And yeah, just honestly decluttering, because actually they will play so much better when they have less toys, because they can see them, they can manage it, there's no overwhelm, they can find their favorite thing. Otherwise, yeah, they're just like, no. So actually less is 100% more. And you can definitely get them involved as well, because I think some people just say, oh, my kids won't do it, or they want to keep everything. And obviously every kid is different. um my nearly 3-year-old is pretty savage. Like, she will just get rid of everything. I'm like, great. But other kids are not. But there's different ways to kind of manage it. I don't know if you want to talk more about
No,
that, but
yeah, we can do. So with my 3-year-old, he's not a good tidier. We do have to force him. But little things that can improve his willingness
yeah.
is every time he does a section, he goes, check.
Ah,
And
I
that little
love that.
thing he enjoys a little bit. So yeah, how can we get our kids on board?
Yeah, so make it into a game, 100%. And also, so encourage them to do it, and also speak to them, obviously, depending on how old they are.
Mhm.
Um, my Ottilie has always like been in this situation of talking about decluttering, and so she loves it. But just helping them to understand like why you're doing it, because if they can understand why, then they're more likely to do it. If you're just like, oh, come on, we just need to tidy up, we need to declutter, whatever, they're just gonna be like, no. And yeah, making it into a game, like, oh, how many of these can you find, or whatever it is. And also talking to them about where their toys are going to go. So like, if you're going to give them to charity, you can say, oh, another kid will enjoy this, playing with this, you don't need it anymore. So
Mhm.
and that can really help with kids, because then they feel like they're being nice. And so yeah, but there's just different kind of tactics, I think, depending on what your child is doing. But you can also do charts and rewards and things like that.
Mhm.
you know don't know, depending on on what they would,
Mhm.
like a star chart or something, or I don't know, they'll get something at the end of it. But yeah, I think you definitely just have to make it into a bit of a game, and tell them exactly why you're doing it.
For any
And
worried listeners, is it going to get easier as the kids get older?
I mean, I almost feel like it gets worse.
Expand.
Oh, I don't know. I just think as they get older, there's like more pressure from other, the kids, and they've got this and that, and then they want to
Mhm.
buy this. But at the same time, I think it's easier as well, because they understand more. So I
Mhm.
think it's a bit of both. I obviously, mine's only 3, so I don't have like
Mhm.
personal experience of um the older kids. But yeah, it just depends, I think, on each individual. um but there's obviously less, like, as they get older, I think the toys tend to get smaller rather
Mhm.
than bigger. But
Yeah, I think when I look back at when I was maybe a teenager living in the parents' house and I had my own room, um, I had no pride in having a decluttered room. I look back on it now and I think, no wonder my parents told me off, had a go at me so much about the bedroom. Whereas now I'm the complete
yeah,
opposite. So yeah, I think maybe it won't get easier in some ways when they're teenagers
yeah.
because there's maybe so many more interesting things when you're 14.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I do think teenagers are a bit of a law unto themselves. They're trickier to deal with, I think, in a lot of ways, aren't they? But then again, it can go either way. I think with some teenagers are really proud of their room. Yeah.
Yeah. Moving away from children.
Mm.
So quite often I imagine, you'll know better than me, maybe it's not always just the children that's the problem.
Yeah.
We have relationships, whether we're living with our parents, with our partners, with our siblings. Maybe not everybody's on board at the
Yeah.
same time. Is that something you come across?
Yeah, all the time. Like so often. I mean, I work with women, not necessarily men, mostly women. So it tends to be like the husband or the partner is saying they're not on board. And the big problem for most people is that they try to kind of talk to them, and sort of almost like nag them, and actually that just does not work, because if someone just doesn't want to do it, they're not going to do it. And so I always encourage everyone to start with your own stuff,
Mhm.
focus on it, try not to do the thing where you're just like subtly like murmuring something under your breath
Mhm.
when you walk past about, oh, I'm the only one that does anything. And just focus on your goals and what you're trying to achieve with your stuff, and like the kind of communal areas. And when they see the changes start happening and they start noticing the benefits, it often plants the seed and then they start to want to do it. But definitely just focusing on your own things and not not getting cross with your partner or whoever it is about not doing it, because it just will do the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Like they will just never do it.
Yeah, lots of people I know may have what we consider a junk space.
Yeah.
So, should we have a junk cupboard, a junk bedroom, or a junk garage?
Definitely not a room or garage, because essentially, well, obviously, if if you've got a, like, people call it a spare room, right? And then it
Mm.
tends to turn into a
Mhm.
dumping ground, and you're literally paying for that to be filled with stuff
Mhm.
that you're not even using. So it's, if you're thinking about like cost per square foot in your house, it's not a good use of money. So no, I definitely wouldn't do that. But I think I don't love a junk anything. I mean, I love sorting them, but I I don't want to advise people to have one. But I think sometimes people do find it really helpful to have like a drawer in a kitchen or somewhere where
Mhm.
it's just like, not junk, but the random stuff, like little things, tape measures, pins, whatever it is, the stuff that you don't have loads of, but you just need somewhere for it to go. But try to actually organize it. So like get a little like divider or something, containers to keep it in. But yeah, no, generally don't have a junk anything, because ultimately it's like, you know, your your space, it's you're there so much in your house, right? And ultimately how your house and your space is affects how you feel, right? Like everything is energy, and if you're walking into a room and you're like, oh my god, this is like a junk room, that doesn't make you feel good, right? And you need to be on that high frequency to attract the good things into your life. We don't want any like low vibe clutter rooms. So
No,
yeah.
amazing. I think that's something a lot of people do have,
Yeah.
often unintentionally.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, we definitely find ourselves. We've had one. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
I
Okay.
think everyone has. I think everyone has. And it's not something to think, oh my God, because genuinely, I mean, I would argue that nearly almost every single client I've worked with has
Mhm.
something like that. But the ultimate goal is to not have that, because your life is just easier when you
Mhm.
don't.
No, great answer. What toxic beliefs are keeping us stuck in clutter?
So many. Like, I spent money on it, which you spoke about earlier. I
Mhm.
might need it one day. Um, oh, this is just who I am. I'm just messy, or I like to have a lot of stuff around me. And a lot of the toxic beliefs are actually very toxic, because they're so deep rooted. You know, so much of it comes down to like self concept and identity, and that's why I go really deep with my clients in terms of the kind of self concept work, because actually, really, that's what it is. It's like, so often there'll be a problem to do with something to do with clutter, and actually it's from past trauma from when they were 7. And so that's why it's so much more than just the stuff. It's not, it's really often never about the stuff.
Mhm.
um but yeah, we definitely need to kind of untangle them. I've got a podcast actually on my show about toxic beliefs and things like that. So if your listeners want to find out more, they can definitely have a listen to that. But yeah, it's really digging in deep. So noticing what your block is, and then actually kind of trying to think about why.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like that? Often the money thing, like, oh, I spent money on it. It's because growing up, our parents would say like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees, or don't waste that, or this, that, and the other. And there's also, like, in terms of toxic beliefs, like environmental as well. That's a big one for a lot of people. They don't want to declutter because they think it's
Mhm.
bad for the environment. But actually, yes, if you literally chuck everything in landfill, then obviously. But if you do what you can to declutter sustainably, it's not so much. But actually, keeping a house full of stuff that you can't manage is worse for the environment.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and if one of our listeners is thinking, I am struggling with clutter,
yeah,
I do want to work with a professional,
yeah,
what does that process actually look like?
yeah. So you would usually have a call with someone. So when you find someone that you want to work with, you generally have like a quick like initial free call, and then they might do a home consultation if it needs that, or if you just want to go straight into the session, then they'll just come around. And they will, everyone works differently, but generally how I work. So I'm not actually seeing clients in home anymore, or at the moment. But generally I would always work with the client. So it depends if it's like if it's a move unpacking job or something like that, it's a bit different. But if it's decluttering, we'll work together, and really, help you to go through each item and make decisions. And there's so many benefits to working with an organizer, because if you don't like decluttering, you're not going to want to do it. And so having someone there with you, it just helps to keep the motivation, and also helping you to make those decisions. So I'm quite like a tough love coach, I'll be honest. So I will, question my clients. I'll never, professional organizers will never ever make you get rid of something. But actually, for me, you're hiring me to help you declutter and improve your life. So if I would just let you keep everything, what's the point in me being there? But yeah, so we'll work together and then declutter generally, and then a bit of organization, depending on, every client is so different, but usually you need to declutter first. Like, some clients will say, oh, I just need to get organized. But actually, if you've got too much stuff, you can't organize it. You could be the most sensational professional organizer in the world. You can't organize someone's house if there is too much stuff, because it's a case of physical space. If you don't have the physical space, it's not getting organized.
And if somebody is struggling with clutter, but maybe they're not ready to work with a professional,
Yeah.
what is the most appropriate first step?
Personally, I think that actually you need to get clear on your goals, because if you don't know why you're doing this, you're gonna feel it's gonna feel really hard to carry on, especially if it gets a bit tricky and you feel, oh my God, I've got decision fatigue or whatever. You're gonna find it really hard to carry on. Whereas if you're like, right, I've got this spare junk room, for example, and it's completely pointless. It's totally, why is it even there? And actually, maybe I want to rent the room out, get some extra cash or something. You can do that tax free up to a certain point, can't you? You could make money from doing that. So, okay, so like maybe that's your goal. And then you think, well, actually, once I've done this, I could get 600 quid a month. Cheers. So like that, so thinking about why you're doing it, what the goal is, what the benefits are going to be from having that decluttered space. That is 100% the first step. And that's the step that most people don't do because they don't want to, because it's a bit boring. But actually it's like, and I've learned this from business as well, but and decluttering, but it is, if you just start and you don't want to do it, you won't carry on if you haven't got a goal.
No, very interesting. I'm going to come at you with some home organization quickfire questions. Okay.
Testing
Have
my
them right
skills.
here. Yes. Okay. Okay, let's go for it. So yeah, take a drink before we start. It was just a few. Okay.
Okay.
So 3 reasons we should declutter right now.
More time, more money, less stress.
1 item you always tell people to get rid of.
Well, 1 item. Well, I don't know, duplicates of stuff, obviously, but unused cables. Let's go with unused cables.
Okay. The most cluttered space in a home.
Generally, oh God, often wardrobes. Kids' toys also.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's more important, systems or stuff?
As in to get rid of and deal with. Decluttering, get rid of the stuff first. 100%.
Perfect. Junk spaces, should we have them?
Ideally not. But don't feel bad if you do, but just make it your goal to reduce.
Okay. Ottomans, attractive home furniture or a place to throw things?
If you've got a proper plan and you really need that extra space, then yes, great. But yes, they can end up as dumping grounds for sure.
Can you tell a lot about somebody by their sock drawer?
I can, yeah, a little bit, but not loads. Maybe their wardrobe, yes.
Okay. And what's worse, tangled cables or a Lego minefield?
Oh God. I mean, Lego's fun, at least. Cable's not so fun. Probably Lego takes longer to sort out if people want it like fully organized, but cables are the bane of my life, so let's go with that.
And if somebody is struggling, is it worth reaching out to a professional home organizer?
100%, because the money you will get back, like, it's such an investment. It's such a good investment. 100%.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for answering those.
You're
One
welcome.
final question for today's podcast.
Yes.
What does home mean to you?
Oh, well, right now, home is quite chaotic because of this crazy house move. But generally, home is it's so important because it's essentially the foundation, right? It's like, where you think of your goals, like how you um I don't know, it's like it kind of sets you up for success or failure, I think. If your house is a hot mess, it's very difficult to do anything well, I think, especially if you're coming home and it's just like, oh, you just walk in and you're like, whoa, this is so stressful. It's just like not good. So I think, if you've got big goals in your life, having a decluttered home is really the foundation of it. I always say, like, you know, to create your dreamy life, you need to declutter first because you just do, because it's a clear, like a clean slate. And then really we shouldn't have to be thinking about decluttering. We should just have a space that sets us up for success. Like, yeah, I think, yeah,
Oh, perfect.
that's
I like.
where
I
I
like.
don't
No,
know
that was a
what to
great
say.
answer. I liked your tag. What was that tagline there? To create your
Um,
perfect life.
yeah, creating your dream life starts with decluttering.
I like that. Okay, well, Amy, thank you very much for joining me today.
You're
I know lots of
welcome.
people will benefit from that conversation.
Oh, good.
If somebody wants to view your content
Mhm.
or wants to work with you, where can they find you?
So on well, everywhere actually, Amy the Space Creator, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of the places. amythespacecreator.com is my website. Everything's on there. I've got like PDF printables and things like that, online masterclasses, and I'm not working with clients in home at the moment, but I'm starting one-to-one coaching. Sorry, one-to-one virtual coaching soon. But I'm booked up at the moment. But yeah, you can find all that on the website.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for listening to the podcast again this week. We hope that you found that valuable, and we'll be back again next week.